How many times have you hesitated to speak up because you feared being dismissed? How many dreams have been buried because the world told you they weren't possible? Today, I want to remind you of something important. Your voice matters, even when others try to silence it. The truth is, we live in a world where bold ideas are often met with skepticism, where standing for something, especially when it goes against the grain, is seen as too risky, too different, or too much. But here's what they don't tell you. Every great change, every revolution, every breakthrough began with someone who refused to stay silent. Today, my friends, I want to introduce you to an age-old story that revolves around persistence and speaking up, even when people refuse to listen. What if you knew the future, but no one would ever believe you? Would you still speak out, or would you remain silent, knowing that your warnings would fall on deaf ears? Cassandra, the princess of Troy, was blessed with the gift of prophecy. She could see the future with perfect clarity, a gift granted by the god Apollo. But when Cassandra refused Apollo's romantic advances, he cursed her. Though she would still see the future, no one would believe her warnings. This curse turned her life into a tragedy, as she could foresee disasters but was powerless to stop them. As the Trojan War raged on, Cassandra warned her people about the dangers that awaited them. She foresaw the infamous Trojan Horse and desperately tried to convince the Trojans not to bring it into the city. She pleaded, screamed, and cried, but her words were dismissed as madness. The Trojans, blinded by their pride and desire for victory, refused to listen. If you were Cassandra, knowing that your warnings would go unheeded, would you keep trying to save your people, or would you give up, knowing that your voice would never be heard? Despite knowing the futility of her efforts, Cassandra continued to warn her people. She couldn't remain silent, even though her heart ached from the knowledge that her prophecies would be ignored. Her sense of duty outweighed the despair of her isolation, but it came at a great personal cost. As night fell and the Trojans celebrated their supposed victory, Cassandra retreated to the temple, foreseeing the destruction of her city and the tragic deaths that would follow. The curse Apollo had placed on her became unbearable. She had the wisdom to save her people, but she was rendered powerless by the disbelief of others. Even as the soldiers poured out of the Trojan horse and chaos erupted in the streets, Cassandra's warnings echoed in the air, unheard until it was too late. She was a prisoner of her own foresight, watching events unfold exactly as she had predicted, but unable to change the course of history. The pain of knowing and being ignored became Cassandra's torment, a burden she carried until her tragic end. Cassandra's story is more than just a tale of prophecy. It's a lesson in isolation that can come with insight. Her curse is symbolic of anyone who possesses knowledge or wisdom that is ignored or dismissed. Many of us, at some point in our lives, have faced situations where we saw the impending consequences of a decision, but no one would listen to our warnings. The pain of being unheard is profound, yet Cassandra's persistence in trying to warn others, despite the curse, teaches us something valuable. Cassandra's curse reminds us that sometimes, even when the truth is clear, people may not be ready to hear it. It's a lesson in perseverance, integrity, and the weight of foresight. Though her voice went unheard, Cassandra remained true to herself, speaking the truth even when it was inconvenient or uncomfortable for others. Her story challenges us to ask, when we know the right path, will we speak up, even if the world refuses to listen? It also speaks to the loneliness that can come from being ahead of the curve, from seeing things that others refuse to acknowledge. The true tragedy of Cassandra is not just her curse, but how the truth, when ignored, can lead to devastating consequences for all.